The massive alien ship appeared above Earth without warning. It was bigger than any human city, casting shadows across entire countries as it moved through the sky. People around the world stopped what they were doing and stared up at the impossible sight. Ambassador Zethkar stood on the bridge of his vessel, looking down at the blue and green planet below. His scaled hands moved across the control panel as he prepared to deliver the message that had ended the freedom of 47 other species across the galaxy. This would be easy, he thought. It always was. The humans had been in space for less than 100 years. They had a few colonies on nearby planets and some mining stations on asteroids. Compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy, they were nothing more than children playing with dangerous toys. The Galactic Council had been watching Earth for decades. What they saw worried them. Humans fought wars with each other constantly. They built weapons that could destroy their own planet. They expanded into space not with peaceful exploration, but with military ships and armed colonies. Other species in the galaxy had learned to live in peace under the Council's guidance. The Vorthak had given up their weapons 3,000 years ago. The hegemony had submitted to Council rule without firing a single shot. Even the proud Kralliks had eventually seen reason and joined the peaceful order. But humans were different. They seemed to enjoy conflict. Their history books were filled with stories of war and rebellion. Even their entertainment showed battles and violence. The Council's experts had studied human culture and declared them a dangerous species that needed to be controlled before they became a threat to galactic peace. Zethkar activated the communication system. Every screen on Earth would show his face and translate his words into human languages. This was how it always began. "People of Earth," he said in his calm, deep voice. "I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Galactic Council. We represent 47 civilized species across this galaxy who have lived in peace for thousands of years. On Earth, billions of humans watched and listened. In the United Nations building in New York, Secretary General Maria Santos sat with her advisors, waiting for what they all knew was coming. We have been watching your species," Zethkar continued. "We have seen your expansion into space. We have observed your military buildup and your aggressive nature. The Council has met and decided that humanity poses a threat to galactic peace." Santos felt her hands tighten into fists. Around the conference table, the faces of world leaders showed anger and fear. "Therefore," the alien ambassador said, "the Council gives you this choice. You will surrender all your weapons immediately. You will place your military forces under Council command. You will relocate your population to worlds that we will choose for you. In return, we will allow your species to continue existing under our guidance and protection." The room erupted in angry voices. General Harrison, the head of Earth's Space Defense Forces, stood up so quickly his chair fell over. "They want us to become their slaves," he said. Zethkar's image on the screen continued speaking. "You have 7 of your days to decide. If you choose to resist, the Council will be forced to use other methods to ensure galactic peace. We do not wish to harm you, but we will not allow a dangerous species to threaten the order we have spent millennia building." The transmission ended. Earth was quiet for a moment, then exploded into activity. Emergency meetings were called. Military bases went to high alert. Space colonies began preparing for war. Santos called an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in person or by video link. The debate was fierce but short. No one wanted to surrender humanity's freedom to alien rulers. Dr. Elizabeth Kane, Earth's top expert on alien technology, presented what they knew about the Galactic Council. "They've done this before," she explained. 47 species have joined them, but none by choice. They arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and the species always gives in rather than face destruction. "How strong are they?" asked President Chen of the Asian Federation. "Very strong," Kane admitted. "Their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours in many areas, but they've grown comfortable. They expect easy victories because that's all they've ever had. General Harrison leaned forward. Our intelligence suggests they see us as primitives. They don't know about our hidden fleets or our defensive preparations. They think we only have the ships and weapons they can see. For the past 50 years, ever since humans had first detected alien signals from space, Earth had been preparing. Not preparing for peaceful contact, but preparing for war. Human leaders had learned from history that when a more advanced civilization met a less advanced one, the results were usually bad for the weaker side. Secretly, humanity had built ships, and weapons far beyond what any alien observer would expect. Hidden bases throughout the solar system contained fleets of warships. Automated defense systems were concealed in asteroid fields. Earth's colonies looked like peaceful settlements, but were actually armed fortresses. The debate in the UN lasted for 6 hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. When Santos called for the final vote, it was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender. Santos spent the next day preparing her response. She wrote and rewrote the words that would either save or doom the human race. When the time came, she stood before the cameras, knowing that her words would be heard across the galaxy. Ambassador, Zethkar and members of the Galactic Council, she began. We have considered your offer. We reject it completely. Aboard his ship, Zethkar's scaled face showed surprise. This was not the response he expected. Humanity will not surrender our weapons, Santos continued. We will not submit to your rule. We will not abandon our homes and become refugees on worlds you choose for us. We are free beings, and we will remain free. Zethkar activated his communicator to speak with the Council leadership on their distant worlds. This was unexpected, but not unheard of. Some species needed to see the Council's power before they accepted reality. You speak of peace, Santos said, her voice growing stronger. But you offer only slavery disguised with pretty words. You have conquered 47 species and called it civilization. You mistake fear for respect and oppression for order. The Secretary-General paused, knowing her next words would change everything. We know you expected us to bow down in fear. You thought we would beg for mercy like the others, but you have misjudged us completely. Humans do not beg. We do not surrender. And we do not bow to anyone, no matter how powerful they claim to be. She looked directly into the camera, knowing that somewhere in space, alien eyes were watching. You want our freedom? Come and take it. But know this, we will fight you with everything we have. We will make you pay for every mile of space, every planet, every moon. You asked for our surrender. We give you war instead. The transmission ended. On his ship, Zethkar stared at the blank screen in disbelief. No species had ever refused the Council's mercy before. No one had ever chosen war over peaceful submission. He opened a channel to the Council homeworlds and began composing a message that would bring the full might of galactic civilization down upon this stubborn little planet. The humans had made their choice. Soon they would learn what that choice really meant. But as Zethkar prepared to crush another rebellious species, he did not know that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. He did not know about the hidden fleets or the secret weapons. He did not understand that humans viewed death as preferable to slavery. The ambassador thought this would be like all the others, quick, easy, and final. He was about to discover just how wrong he could be. The Council's response came 3 days later, not with words, but with ships. Admiral Thekvar of the Council Navy stood on the command deck of the massive dreadnought Peaceful Order and watched his fleet move toward the human solar system. 200 ships accompanied him, cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels that had never known defeat. The admiral was old, even by his species' standards. His 4 arms moved with practiced efficiency across the control panels, while his large, black eyes studied the tactical displays. He had commanded 43 pacification operations in his long career. None had taken more than a few days to complete. Sir, his tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors detect minimal human naval presence. 12 ships orbiting their homeworld, perhaps 30 more scattered throughout their system. Thekvar's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. 42. Ships against 200. The humans had chosen suicide. Any sign of surrender broadcasts? He asked. None, sir. They are maintaining communication silence. The admiral was not surprised. Some species fought briefly before accepting reality. The Kraliks had lasted almost 6 hours before their leaders saw reason. The Vorthak had actually managed to damage 3 council ships before surrendering, but they all surrendered in the end. What Thekvar did not know was that humanity had spent 50 years studying every piece of alien technology they could find. Crashed probes, debris from alien ships, even signals from deep space. Human scientists had analyzed everything and built their defenses accordingly. The 42 ships the Council detected were real, but they were only a fraction of Earth's true fleet. Hidden throughout the solar system, protected by stealth technology developed specifically to fool alien sensors, waited another 500 warships. Admiral Sarah Cross sat in the command center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains and watched the alien fleet approach. Around her, hundreds of technicians and officers monitored screens showing the positions of both fleets, the one the aliens could see and the one they could not. Estimated time until they reach Earth? She asked. 18 hours at current speed, replied Commander Jackson. Cross nodded. The waiting was almost over. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this day. Every person in the military, every worker in the defense industries, every scientist and engineer, they had all been working toward this single moment. The plan was simple in concept, but incredibly complex to execute. Let the aliens think they faced only a small, primitive fleet. Allow them to enter the solar system and commit their forces. Then reveal the true size of Earth's defenses and hit them from all directions at once. Signal all hidden units, Cross ordered. Maintain stealth. Protocols until ordered otherwise. We get exactly one chance to surprise them. Aboard the Peaceful Order, Admiral Thekvar studied reports from his scouts. The human ships were moving into defensive positions around their planet. Standard formation, exactly what any primitive species would do when facing overwhelming force. They are placing their ships between us and their homeworld, his tactical officer observed. Classic defensive positioning. Brave but pointless, Thekvar replied. Prepare the usual surrender demand. Once they see our full strength, their leaders will order them to stand down. But as the Council fleet moved deeper into the solar system, human ships began emerging from hiding places the aliens had never imagined possible. Ships hidden behind asteroids activated their engines. Vessels buried in the rings of Saturn revealed themselves. Entire squadrons rose from the dark side of Earth's moon. Sir! The tactical officer's voice was sharp with alarm. New contacts appearing throughout the system. Dozens of them. No, hundreds! On his command screen, red dots appeared like angry stars. Where moments before the Admiral had seen a handful of human ships, now he saw a fleet nearly as large as his own. Impossible, Thekvar whispered. Our intelligence showed only primitive capabilities. The humans have been hiding their true strength, his science officer reported. Their stealth technology is far more advanced than we estimated. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Thekvar felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Uncertainty. The human fleet began moving into attack formation. Unlike the defensive positions the Admiral expected, they were spreading out to surround his forces. Their ships moved with precision that spoke of long training and preparation. Then the first human transmission came through, broadcast on all frequencies so every ship in both fleets could hear it. Alien fleet, this is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Earth Defense Forces. You have entered our solar system with hostile intent. You have threatened our world and our people. We offered you the chance to leave in peace. You chose war instead. Thekvar activated his own transmitter. Human Admiral, You are badly outnumbered and outgunned. Your ships cannot match our weapons and shields. Surrender now and your people will be spared." The response came immediately, and its tone made the alien admiral's blood run cold. "We know we are outgunned. We know many of us will die today. But we also know something you do not understand. We would rather die free than live as your slaves." Admiral Cross's image appeared on screens throughout both fleets. She was a small human female, unremarkable by alien standards. But her eyes held a determination that made veteran council warriors uncomfortable. "You have conquered 47 species who valued their lives more than their freedom," she said. "Today you meet the species that chooses differently. We are humanity. We bow to no one. We surrender to no one. And we will fight you until our last ship is destroyed and our last breath is gone." The transmission ended. Thekvar stared at the blank screen, trying to process what he had heard. No species had ever spoken to the council with such defiance. No military commander had ever chosen certain death over reasonable surrender. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are not responding to any further communications. They appear to be preparing for battle." Thekvar studied the tactical display. His fleet was still larger and more powerful than the humans, but not by as much as he had expected. And the humans had already proven they were full of surprises. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered. "Prepare for combat operations." As his fleet moved into attack formation, the admiral tried to convince himself this would be like all the others. The humans would fight briefly, take some losses, and then see reason. Their leaders would call for surrender once they realized resistance was hopeless. But deep inside, Thekvar knew this was different. The humans had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. They had hidden their true strength and drawn the council fleet into their home system where they held every advantage. Most disturbing of all was something in Admiral Cross's voice, not fear or desperation, but grim determination. These humans truly believed they would rather die than surrender. And if they really meant it, this battle would be unlike anything the Council had ever faced. The two fleets moved toward each other through the darkness of space. The aliens confident in their superior technology and experience. The humans outnumbered and outgunned, but fighting for something the Council had never understood. The idea that some things were worth dying for. Behind Earth, more human ships continued to emerge from hiding. The battle that would determine humanity's fate was about to begin. The first shots came from the human fleet. Admiral Thekvar watched in confusion as streams of metal projectiles raced toward his ships instead of the energy weapons he expected. The primitive kinetic rounds bounced harmlessly off his vessels' shields, doing no damage at all. "Human weapons are ineffective against our defenses," his tactical officer reported. "Their technology is even more primitive than we thought." But Admiral Cross had not expected those first shots to do any damage. They were merely a distraction, drawing alien attention away from what was really coming. Hidden among the kinetic rounds were smaller objects, not weapons, but devices designed to attach to alien ship hulls and wait. When the projectiles hit the Council ship's shields, most bounced away as expected, but a few slipped through gaps in the energy barriers and stuck to the alien vessels like metal leeches. "Beginning main assault," Cross announced to her fleet. "All ships execute Alpha Strike." The human fleet suddenly changed formation. Instead of the predictable battle line Thekvar expected, they split into dozens of small groups that raced toward the Council ships from every direction. "Suicidal," the alien admiral muttered. "They are throwing away any tactical advantage they might have had." But as the human ships closed distance, they began doing something no civilized species had ever done in space combat. They rammed their ships directly into Council vessels. The first collision came when Captain Elena Vasquez of the destroyer Indomitable drove her ship straight into the side of a Council cruiser. The human vessel, moving at tremendous speed, punched through the alien ship's shields and hull like a bullet through paper. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire and debris. "Direct collision!" Tekvar's tactical officer shouted. "The humans are ramming our ships!" More human vessels followed Vasquez's example. Captain Chen of the Defiant smashed his ship into a council destroyer. Commander Torres of the Relentless drove her vessel into the engine section of an alien dreadnought, causing massive explosions that crippled the larger ship. The council fleet fell into chaos. This was not warfare as they understood it. Civilized species fought at distance with energy weapons and defensive screens. They did not throw away their own ships and lives in suicidal attacks. "They are insane," Tekvar's science officer reported. "No rational species would sacrifice their ships like this." But the human attacks were not random suicide charges. Each ramming attack was carefully planned to cause maximum damage to council ships while taking out human vessels that were already damaged or outnumbered. Captain Williams of the cruiser Freedom broadcast his final message as he drove his burning ship into a council command vessel. "This is for my daughter who will never be a slave. See you in hell." The small devices that had attached to council ships during the first attack now activated. Nuclear mines exploded against alien hulls, damaging engines and weapon systems. The council's perfect shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved useless against explosions that came from inside their defensive barriers. Admiral Tekvar watched his tactical display fill with red warning lights as ship after ship reported damage. Half his fleet was either destroyed or crippled, and the humans showed no signs of stopping their insane attacks. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the human admiral is broadcasting again." Cross's face appeared on screen. Her uniform, torn and blood on her forehead from where she had been thrown against her command console during an explosion. "Admiral Tekvar," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. "You came here expecting us to beg for mercy. You thought we would surrender when we saw your superior numbers, but you made one critical mistake." An explosion rocked the peaceful order as another human ship crashed into one of the council escort vessels nearby. "You assumed we valued our lives more than our freedom," Cross continued. "You were wrong. Every human ship you destroy takes one of your ships with it. Every human life you end costs you 10 of your own. This is not a battle you can win." Tekvar activated his own transmitter. "You are destroying yourselves for nothing. We will rebuild our fleet and return with more ships. Your sacrifice is meaningless." Cross smiled. And something in that expression made the alien admiral feel cold, despite the heat from his ship's damaged systems. "We are not just fighting you," she said. "We are teaching the entire galaxy that the Council can be defeated. Every species you have conquered is watching this battle. They are seeing that your ships can burn and your soldiers can die." More human ships dove toward Council vessels in coordinated attacks. The destroyer Justice and the cruiser Liberty struck a Council dreadnought simultaneously, their combined impact breaking the massive ship in half. "Even if you kill every human in this system," Cross continued, "the message will spread. The 47 species under your rule will remember that someone fought back. Someone said no. Someone chose death over slavery." The tide of battle was turning. The Council fleet, designed to intimidate primitive species into surrender, found itself being systematically destroyed by an enemy that refused to follow any rules of civilized warfare. Commander Jackson, injured but still at his post, handed Cross a damage report. "Admiral, we've lost 60% of our fleet, but they've lost almost 70% of theirs. The plan is working." Cross nodded. The plan had always been simple. Make the cost of conquering humanity so high that the Council would think twice before threatening another species. Show the galaxy that the Council could bleed. On the peaceful order, Admiral Tekvar faced a situation he had never encountered in 43 previous campaigns. His fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that treated their own lives as weapons. Every tactical manual, every strategic principle he had learned over centuries of warfare assumed that both sides wanted to survive the battle. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, voice shaking, "we are receiving surrender signals from 12 of our ships. Their commanders are requesting permission to withdraw." For the first time in Council military history, ships were asking to retreat from a battle against a supposedly primitive species. "Admiral Cross," Thekvar transmitted to the human commander, "you have made your point. Both our fleets are being destroyed. Call off your attacks, and we will withdraw from your system." The response came immediately. "No, your ships are dying too," Thekvar protested. "This serves no purpose." "It serves exactly the purpose we intended," Cross replied. "You came here to enslave us. We are showing you the price of that choice. You want to rule the galaxy through fear? Today you learn what it means to be afraid." The battle raged for 6 more hours. Human ships continued their suicidal attacks until fewer than 50 remained from the original 500. But of the Council's 200 vessels, only 37 survived, and most of those were too damaged to fight. Admiral Thekvar, his ship crippled and his fleet destroyed, finally gave the order he had never given before. "All remaining ships, retreat from this system immediately." As the broken remnants of the Council fleet limped away from Earth, Admiral Cross stood among the ruins of her command center and watched them go. The cost had been terrible. Hundreds of thousands of human lives lost, entire fleets destroyed. But the message had been sent. The Council could be beaten. Their ships could burn. Their perfect record of easy victories was broken forever. Across the galaxy, 47 conquered species received the news that someone had said no to the Council and lived to tell about it. The age of easy conquest was over. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than the Council could contain it. On 47 worlds, conquered species watched in amazement as reports came in about the impossible human victory. The Kraliks were the first to react. 3 days after the Battle of Sol, their underground resistance emerged from hiding and attacked Council installations across their homeworld. Their leader, General Vextai, broadcast a message that reached every corner of Kralik space. "The humans have shown us the truth. The Council can be beaten. Their ships can burn. Today we reclaim our freedom." On the ocean world of Centi Prime, the aquatic Centi began sabotaging the underwater mining operations the Council had forced upon them. Their peaceful protests became armed rebellion as they seized Council ships and weapons. Even the Vorthak, who had submitted to Council rule 3,000 years ago, began questioning the authority they had accepted for so long. Secret meetings were held in hidden chambers. Old weapons, buried for millennia, were dug up and cleaned. But humanity was not content to wait for others to join their fight. Admiral Cross, promoted to head of all Earth forces after the battle, stood before the United Nations and presented a plan that shocked even her own advisors. "We have proven the Council can be defeated," she said. "Now we must prove they will be defeated. I am proposing Operation Exodus, the first offensive war in human history." The debate was fierce. Earth had barely survived the Council's attack. More than half their fleet was destroyed. Hundreds of thousands were dead. Many argued it was time to focus on rebuilding their defenses. But Secretary General Santos understood what Cross was proposing. "If we stop here," she said, "the Council will rebuild and return with a larger fleet. They will learn from their mistakes and adapt their tactics. We have one chance to finish this before they recover." The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would take the war to the Council. Within weeks, human fleets began emerging from hidden bases throughout the galaxy. For 50 years, while preparing to defend Earth, humanity had also been secretly establishing forward bases and supply depots on uninhabited worlds. The Council's first indication of the new threat came when human ships attacked the military, stationed at Kepler Base. The installation, which controlled shipping routes for 6 systems, fell in less than 4 hours to a surprise assault. Admiral Sarah Cross herself led the attack, commanding the new flagship Terran Defiance, a massive warship built from salvaged Council technology and human innovation. "Council Station Kepler," she broadcast as her ship surrounded the facility. "You have 30 seconds to surrender unconditionally. Any attempt to resist will be met with complete destruction." The station commander, Admiral Zek Thor of the Hegemony, activated his transmitter with shaking hands. "Human Admiral, surely we can reach some accommodation. The Council is prepared to discuss terms." "The only terms we accept are unconditional surrender," Cross replied coldly. "The Council wanted war. Now you have it." The station surrendered. Without firing a shot, its staff was imprisoned and its facilities turned into a human-forward base. More importantly, the station's communication array was used to broadcast human demands throughout Council space. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. Human fleets, supported by ships from rebellious species, struck at Council installations with ruthless efficiency. Unlike the Council's traditional warfare, humans targeted everything: military bases, supply depots, industrial centers, even civilian shipping. On the manufacturing world of Helix 7, human Marines led by Colonel James Murphy landed with one simple order: destroy everything that could support the Council war effort. The planet's factories, which had produced weapons and ships for the Council for centuries, were reduced to rubble. When the local governor protested that civilian workers would lose their jobs, Murphy's response became famous across human space. "They should have thought of that before they built weapons to enslave free people." The Council's carefully maintained supply chains began breaking down. Worlds that had depended on trade and support from other Council systems found themselves isolated. The economic network that had held the galaxy together for millennia started to collapse. But the humans introduced tactics that horrified the civilized species of the galaxy. When the Council fleet at Rigel Station attempted to make a fighting withdrawal, human ships pursued them relentlessly, destroying every vessel rather than accepting surrender. Captain Elena Rodriguez of the cruiser Vengeful explained her actions to a Council admiral who had begged for mercy. "You came to our system planning to destroy or enslave every human being alive. Why should we show you the mercy you would never have shown us?" The Council's military doctrine, based on thousands of years of fighting civilized enemies who followed accepted rules of war, proved completely inadequate against humans who fought with desperate fury and refused to acknowledge any limits. When Council forces attempted to fortify the industrial world of Theta Centauri, human engineers responded by redirecting asteroids toward the planet. The bombardment continued for weeks until the world's defenders surrendered unconditionally. The psychological impact was devastating. Council species, accustomed to warfare as a civilized pursuit with clear rules and limited objectives, found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to view war as a total commitment, requiring complete victory or total destruction. Reports reached the Council homeworlds of human soldiers fighting to the death rather than surrender. Stories spread of human ships ramming Council vessels even when other options existed. The reputation for suicidal bravery that humanity had earned at Sol grew with each battle. But perhaps most disturbing to the Council leadership were reports of their own forces beginning to question orders. When Admiral Thekvar, his reputation destroyed by his defeat at Earth, was given command of a new fleet and ordered to retake Kepler Base, nearly a third of his officers requested transfers to other duties. "The humans fight like demons." "1. Captain reported. "They show no fear of death and no mercy to their enemies. My crew is demoralized just thinking about facing them again." The Council's supreme leader, High Chancellor Mordeth, called an emergency session of the ruling body. Representatives from all 47 member species gathered on the capital world of Centralis Prime to discuss the human threat. "This cannot continue," the Chancellor announced. "A primitive species from one small world is destroying everything. we have built over thousands of years. Our fleets are defeated, our economy is collapsing, and our member species are in open rebellion. But the debate that followed revealed the full scope of the crisis. The Council's military was shattered. Their economy was in ruins. Worst of all, the moral authority they had used to rule the galaxy was gone. "How do we negotiate with a species that refuses to accept surrender?" asked the representative from the hegemony. "How do we maintain order when every species in the galaxy sees that we can be beaten?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The Krallick's representative, speaking for a species that had been trying to rebel against council rule for centuries, stood and addressed the assembly. "You cannot negotiate with humans because you have nothing they want. They do not seek to rule the galaxy. They seek to free it. And after what you tried to do to them, they will accept nothing less than your complete defeat." Outside the chamber, human fleets continued their relentless advance toward the Council's core worlds. The species that had once ruled the galaxy through fear now faced extinction at the hands of the primitives they had tried to enslave. The final battle was approaching, and both sides knew it would determine not just who controlled the galaxy, but what kind of galaxy it would become. The final battle began at dawn on Centralis Prime, the Council's capital world. Admiral Cross stood on the bridge of the Terran Defiance and looked down at the planet that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Around her flagship, a massive fleet of human and allied ships waited for her orders. It had taken 2 years to reach this point. 2 years of constant fighting, of worlds liberated and council fleets destroyed. Now the heart of their enemy's power lay before them, defended by the last of the Council's military forces. High Chancellor Mordeth stood in the Council's war room deep beneath the capital city and watched his final fleet prepare for battle. Only 300 ships remained from the thousands that had once enforced Council rule across the galaxy. Everything depended on this last defense. "Sir," his military advisor reported, "the human fleet numbers over 800 ships. Many of them are vessels we do not recognize, new designs built during their offensive campaign." The Chancellor's scaled face showed no emotion. "And our ground defenses? All planetary shields are active. Surface weapons are charged and ready. If we can defeat their fleet, the planet can hold indefinitely." But both leaders knew this battle would be different from all the others. The humans had learned from 2 years of warfare. Their ships were now built with salvaged Council technology, making them far more dangerous than the primitive vessels that had fought at Sol. More importantly, humanity now commanded the loyalty of dozens of species that had joined their rebellion. Krallick's warriors, Senti engineers, even some Vorthak scientists had contributed to the force now approaching the Council homeworld. Admiral Cross opened a channel to the planet below. Her image appeared on screens throughout Centralis Prime, in government buildings and private homes, in bunkers and military bases. "People of the Galactic Council," she began, "this is Admiral Sarah Cross of the United Species Alliance. For too long, you have lived under the rule of those who maintain power through fear and oppression." In the Council chambers, High Chancellor Mordeth watched the human commander with a mixture of hatred and grudging respect. This primitive female had destroyed his empire and brought his civilization to its knees. "Today," Cross continued, "your leaders face the same choice they offered humanity 3 years ago. Surrender unconditionally and submit to the judgment of the free species of this galaxy, or face the consequences of continued resistance." The Chancellor activated his own transmitter. "Admiral Cross, you speak of freedom while leading a fleet, of destruction toward our homeworld. How are you different from the conquerors you claim to oppose?" Cross's response came immediately, and her words were broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "The difference is simple, Chancellor. When we defeat you, we will not enslave your people. We will not relocate them to worlds of our choosing. We will not strip away their weapons and their dignity. We offer what you never offered anyone, the chance to live free. The Chancellor felt something he had not experienced in centuries of rule: doubt. Around him, his advisors and military officers looked uncertain. The human's words struck at the heart of everything the Council had built. "You have 1 hour to decide," Cross announced. "After that, we will take your surrender by force." The debate in the council chambers was fierce but brief. Some argued for continued resistance, claiming that surrender meant the end of their civilization. Others pointed out that their military was shattered and their empire already lost. But it was the Vorthak representative who spoke the truth everyone understood. "We have already lost everything that mattered. Our member species have rebelled. Our military is defeated. Our economy is in ruins. The only question now is whether we face the future as partners or as prisoners." Outside the planet's atmosphere, the human fleet began its final approach. But instead of the overwhelming bombardment many expected, Cross ordered her ships to target only military installations. The orbital weapons platforms that protected Centralis Prime were destroyed, but the cities below remained untouched. "Sir," Commander Jackson reported from his station, "all planetary defenses have been neutralized. We can begin surface operations whenever you're ready." Cross nodded. "Signal the landing forces. Begin the final phase." Across the galaxy, on worlds that had been liberated during the long campaign, former Council species watched as human marines, and their allies landed on Centralis Prime. But instead of the destructive conquest many feared, the invasion was carefully controlled. Military installations were occupied. Government buildings were secured, but civilian areas were left alone. Human soldiers, supported by Krallick's warriors and Senti technicians, moved through the capital city with discipline and restraint. High Chancellor Mordeth, surrounded by his last loyal guards in the deep bunker, received reports that confused him. The humans were not destroying everything in sight. They were not executing prisoners or enslaving the population. They seemed genuinely interested in maintaining order rather than spreading chaos. When human marines finally reached the council chambers, led by Colonel Murphy himself, they found the Chancellor sitting calmly at the head of the great table where the galaxy's fate had been decided for millennia. "High Chancellor Mordeth," Murphy said formally, "by the authority of the United Species Alliance, I place you under arrest for crimes against the free peoples of this galaxy." The Chancellor looked around the chamber one last time, then slowly stood and placed his hands behind his back. "Colonel, I suppose you expect me to beg for mercy, as my forces demanded of so many others." Murphy's expression was hard, but not cruel. "No, Chancellor. We expect you to face trial for your actions, just as any other being would under a system of justice, rather than tyranny." Within days, the news spread throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council had fallen. Centralis Prime was occupied. The war was over. But Admiral Cross's most difficult task still lay ahead. Meeting with representatives from all the species of the galaxy, both former council members and the newly liberated, she had to help build something that had never existed before: a truly democratic galactic government. The negotiations took months. Some species wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Others feared that humanity would simply replace the Council as the galaxy's rulers. All had to learn to work together as equals rather than rulers and subjects. Secretary General Santos, now representing Earth in the galactic government, addressed the final constitutional convention with words that became the foundation of the new order. "We did not fight this war to replace one tyranny with another. We fought so that every species, every world, every individual could live free to choose their own path. That freedom comes with responsibility, the responsibility to respect the freedom of others." The document they created established the Galactic Republic, with representation based on population rather than military power. No single species could dominate the government. No world could be forced to join or remain against its will. Most importantly, the new government was forbidden from maintaining the kind of overwhelming military force the Council had used to enforce its will. Each species would provide ships for common defense, but no central authority would ever again have the power to conquer and enslave entire worlds. Former High Chancellor Mordeth, facing trial for his crimes, was given something the Council had never offered its enemies, a fair hearing before an impartial court. In the end, he was sentenced to life imprisonment rather than execution, a mercy that surprised many given the suffering he had caused. Years later, as the galaxy adapted to its new freedom, Ambassador Zethkar, the same alien who had delivered the Council's ultimatum to Earth, served as his species' representative in the Galactic Republic. Meeting with Admiral Cross at a diplomatic reception, he reflected on the changes that had transformed their civilization. "Admiral," he said, "when I first came to your world with the Council's demands, I thought we were offering your species mercy by allowing you to live as our subjects." Cross smiled, older now, but still carrying herself with the confidence of someone who had faced the impossible and won. "You were offering us what you thought mercy looked like," she replied, "but you had lived so long under tyranny that you had forgotten what real mercy means." Zethkar nodded slowly. "We learned that from you. We learned that true mercy is not sparing someone from destruction in exchange for their freedom. True mercy is offering them the chance to live with dignity." Looking out at the representatives from hundreds of worlds, all meeting as equals rather than rulers and subjects, Cross felt something she had rarely experienced during the Long War: peace. The galaxy was free, not because humanity had conquered it, but because they had liberated it. The difference, as she had told the Chancellor years before, was everything. The species that had once demanded surrender in exchange for mercy had learned a hard lesson. Sometimes the greatest mercy is refusing to surrender at all.